Hello, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. It is I, Uncle Melty, your ever so gracious and handsome and alcoholic host of the Metal Meltdown. Wow! A brand new Mötley Crüe EP in 2024. Why? 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 Oh, sweet Kentucky Fried Fuck, I need a drink. Cheers. Nice! Oh! Oh, man! Oh, wow! Alright, let's talk about Mötley Crüe, I guess, apparently. American heavy metal superstars, pioneers, and icons of glam metal specifically. They've sold over 100 million records. They've got tons of hit songs. They've got a best-selling memoir, which was turned into a decently successful Netflix biopic of sorts. It was successful enough to convince Mötley Crüe to come out of retirement and tour the world all over again. And now we've got a brand new EP from Mötley Crüe, which is the first thing they've put together since officially reforming and reuniting a few years back. They did release a couple standalone singles in the early 2010s, and they did release some original songs that were attached to The Dirt, the soundtrack, you know, from the Netflix biopic that we mentioned a moment ago. But in an official capacity, this is the closest thing to an album, like an original album, like not a compilation, not standalone singles, that Mötley Crüe have released since 2008's The Saints of Los Angeles. And this comes as Mötley Crüe is being heavily scrutinized, criticized, for a multitude of reasons. I mean, their reunion, I'm sure they've made money. I'm sure they've had fun touring the world and hanging out and being rock stars again. Yeah! But, you know, also simultaneous to that, things have been kind of rocky and weird behind the scenes. Allegations of the band using pre-recorded tracks and playing nothing live, which have been backed up by former guitarist Mick Mars. Hey, speaking of which, Mick Mars sued the band. He was forced out. And there's some weird beef there. I don't know the full legal logistics of it. I'm not a lawyer. I don't represent Mick Mars. I don't represent Mötley Crüe. All I know is it's kind of ugly, and fans have been kind of mixed on new guitarist John Five, who's been brought in to replace Mick Mars. And then there's just the very observable, objective fact that even without all of this, you know, Mötley Crüe has not aged well. Very little from the days of glam metal has aged well, but Mötley Crüe specifically has aged the worst. Like, Vince Neil especially looks and sounds atrocious, hands down the worst rock singer performing out there today. I remember seeing Mötley Crüe on what was supposed to be their final concert here in Toronto back in like 2013, 2014, something like that. And all throughout the song, huffing and puffing in between every single word. He was out of breath, out of stamina. His words were slurring and blurring together. A lot of high-pitched, nasally, incomprehensible squeals and shrieks. And he just looked really tired and sweaty and uncomfortable. That entire performance is like the equivalent to watching a wild boar just kind of run around on stage dressed up in drag. And hopefully all of this, coupled with my belief that Mötley Crüe have not released anything consistently great or authentic in at least 35 years, makes it easy to understand why I wouldn't be especially excited or hyped or pumped to talk about this brand new EP. And it's a shame because I wish I could be excited or hyped or pumped for this brand new EP, because there was a time when I genuinely loved and thoroughly respected Mötley Crüe. They were a gateway metal band for me. I remember being a teenager blasting the ever-living shit out of Too Fast for Love and Shout at the Devil, and being like genuinely really pumped to go to that aforementioned final Toronto show ever. But alas, it's just not that simple. Whatever fondness I may have for Mötley Crüe, for what they used to be, for what they maybe still are, deep in the core of my bitter and black heart, it doesn't matter. This is hands down the laziest, most tired, most lethargic, most cringeworthy thing that I feel Mötley Crüe have put to tape since the dreaded days of the self-titled and Generation Swine. And this was Mötley Crüe's chance to prove the validity of the continued existence of Mötley Crüe in 2024. despite the accusations, despite all the legal beef and drama with Mick Mars. But instead, they have proven that the sooner we get Mötley Crüe back into the fucking retirement home, the fucking better. Going from best to worst, you have Dogs of War, which was also the lead single from this EP, a moody, edgy, clumsy kind of butt rock number trying way too hard to be really heavy, really gritty, really provocative. It honestly sounds and feels like something that could have been demoed and would have been outright cut from the aforementioned self-titled and Generation Swine. The main riff, too, is eerily, scarily reminiscent of Awake from Godsmack. Like, I would argue full-blown plagiarism. If Godsmack were to sue, I think they absolutely have a case. Vince Neil sounds fine, I guess. It's clear right off the bat that Mötley Crüe is aware of the fact that Vince Neil is not in great shape, so on both this cut and on everything else that follows, he's not hitting those super high notes, he's not doing anything super ambitious, he's staying in a pretty basic kind of mid-range. And instrumentally speaking, everything's fine, I guess. It's mostly just really safe and really bland and really generic. I feel especially bad for John 5. He does get kind of a fun little guitar solo, but for the most part, most of the personality and character that you see in his very eclectic and funky kind of guitar sound has been stripped away completely from him. Not just on this cut, but also on other cuts on this EP. There's also a cover of You've Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party, originally from the Beastie Boys, which just reeks of middle-aged dad cover band fucking energy, like a bunch of 50-year-old men jamming in their fucking garages, living out their rock and roll fantasy. It sounds kind of pathetic, it's kind of cringe, and the irony of this cover even existing is that the original Beastie Boys cut, Fight for Your Right to Party, was kind of penned in response as a caricature to these kind of party rock jams that bands like Mötley Crüe were putting out at the time. I'm not going to blame this lack of behind-the-scenes knowledge and media literacy specifically on Mötley Crüe because the original song has long been universally recognized as an all-time party bop and rager, but I will, simultaneous to that, point out it is just objectively funny and weird and ironic that Mötley Crüe would cover a song that was like legit kind of making fun of them. And this now brings us to the Mad King of Shit Mountain, the EP's title track, Cancelled, which I promise you is every bit as unintentionally hilarious and objectively stupid as you think it is. Now, to be entirely fair, initially, this track presents itself as actually being the best of the bunch, with some decent licks and bouncy grooves and some genuine swagger that actually does bring to mind Dr. Feelgood style Mötley Crüe vibes. But then, suddenly, and without warning, Vince Neil has the audacity to open his mouth and start whining, of all things, about the possibility of being cancelled. It's just so fucking cringe, man. They whine about the Daily Mail, they whine about TikTok, they whine about internet monkeys and trolls. There's a vague reference to January 6th also kind of sandwiched in there, and they weirdly, maybe unintentionally, but nevertheless, frame January 6th in a way that makes it seem as if the worst thing about that is that some people might have gotten cancelled. And believe it or not, it somehow gets even more obscenely stupid shortly afterwards with Vince Neil singing, "Digging up my dirt on your woke crusade, supermodel sandwich, selfie in the backseat. She said yes, then they arrest me, lock me up, put me in shackles. Watch your ass, you might get canceled." Now, call me crazy. Once again, if you like, fine by me. But I don't think being arrested for sexual assault or rape is comparable to being canceled by like a bunch of crazy libs on Twitter or whatever the fuck. And there's an added layer of grossness and complete disconnect from objective reality to this lyrical passage when you remember that not only has everyone in Mötley Crüe been accused of sexual assault and harassment and rape on many an occasion, but also in the aforementioned New York Times best-selling memoir The Dirt, Nikki Sixx literally talks about an incident in which he admits he went too far. As Rolling Stone reports, Six recollects a party where a woman he knew pulled him into a small room at a party and the two began having sex. Soon after, Six left the room, returned with bandmate Tommy Lee, and tricked the woman as to who she was having sex with. Six said that when he woke up the next morning, he didn't remember the incident until the woman called him and told him she had been raped the night before. Though she said her attacker was a man who'd picked her up while she was trying to hitchhike home, Six said the story made him realize, and I quote, that I had probably gone too far. Adding on, and I quote, at first I was relieved because it meant I hadn't raped her, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized I pretty much had. Like, wow, that's horrible, and that's disgusting, and you should absolutely be held accountable for that. But Mötley Crüe in this song would apparently frame any attempt to hold them accountable for such action as the chronically online left just trying to cancel another rock star for daring to speak their mind. Like, oh my fucking god, fuck you. This EP gets a solid fuck you out of 5. Yikes! Ah! There may only be 3 fucking songs on this EP, but what it lacks in content, it more than makes up for in just purely awful fucking vibes. In its best moments, it is tired, lethargic, low energy, sad, pathetic, bland, generic, and in its absolute worst moments, it's cringeworthy and a little fucking gross, a little fucking stupid. You either die a 2014 Mötley Crüe, or you live long enough to see yourself become a 2024 Mötley Crüe. Pathetic, horrible, embarrassing, fuck you out of 5, holy fucking shit. Yeah, that's it for me, I guess. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. I don't fucking give a shit if you didn't. Boom, subscribe. Boom, other video. Boom, other video. That's crazy. Join us on Discord. Get the fuck out of my sight. God, where's Thrash and Jackson when you need him?